A good day to all of you, and welcome to our show, Living Multiculturalism with Mayank Bhatt. You're watching Tag TV. Friends, today we have with us Amatoritsero Ede, a poet from Nigeria who actually left Nigeria more than 2 decades back. He has then lived in Germany and has lived in Canada for over 15 years. The most important contribution that he has made to our society here and to multiculturalism is that he has created a platform called the Maple Tree Literary Supplement, which is an online journal which creates an avenue for newcomers like you and I to be able to contribute creatively either through poems, short stories, extracts from larger pieces like on non-fiction memoir, a novel, and he's been doing this for the last 8 years. Welcome, Amy, and I want to begin by asking you a very straightforward and simple question. Why did you leave Nigeria?
I left Nigeria basically to go out and study. I was studying German language at the University of Ibadan. So usually you do 4 years, and then you have to spend 1 semester in Germany. And when I got to Germany, I decided to stay longer. I just continued my studies there. I went on to do the master's. And so basically I left Nigeria to go out to study.
How was your life in Germany? What did you do there?
Well, I was a student. I also worked in Volkswagen car plant during the holidays, summer holidays, and it was a bittersweet experience. You have the right wing in Germany back then. I think they are more and more, quiet now. They are not. Germany is a great place to be. It's a wonderful culture. It's a wonderful people, very energetic, and the right wing were like the spoilers, so to speak. They were, every family has a bad child, something like that. You have this child that you keep away from the public's there. So that was the neo-Nazi party, the right wing. So apart from that, it was totally enjoyable experience.
What made you study and learn German language? You've done a master's degree in
German language. Yes. I started out, I was a writer already before I started my studies. I was already writing poetry. I had my first major publication in a book, an anthology published in the UK called The Fate of Vultures. And so when I started to study, I left the publishing house where I was working. I thought, well, I know English so much that I will be like, I won't be learning much that is new. Of course, that's not true, because I realize now after getting the PhD in English, I know that there's a lot. But so back there I thought, okay, let me learn a second language, a language that is useful for thinking, a language of thought, which German is, because most of the Western philosophers wrote in German language. Heidegger, Kant, that's Immanuel Kant, Heidegger, Hegel, and all of these people. Even though
Marx.
Karl Marx, yes, definitely. Karl Marx wrote in German originally. So you see, the language is so plastic, it's so malleable. You can use it to express anything. Anything is expressible in German. German language has a German word for any other word in any other language. So they borrow, but at the same time, for example, TV, they call it TV, TV. And we are on TV, so it's a good example. So TV for them, then the German word for TV is Fernseher. Fern is the distance. Sehen, to see from the distance. That's the word for TV. And then computer, they also borrow English and say computer with a K. But they also have a word for computer in German, which is Rechner. Compute is to calculate, so to rechnen, from the verb rechnen, you calculate. Rechner is something that calculates, that computes. So I remember when I left for Germany, I had a good friend of mine put some money in an account for me in Germany, And I received a letter from the bank in Nigeria for visa purposes, and this letter says, "Die Alleinverfügungsberechtigt." That's one word. That is every noun, every substantive has an article like the or a, but because of the gender and case and whatever in German language. So this word is one word, but they join a lot of the word building, morphology. The morphology is so great. Allein is alone, single. Berechtigung, the right, to have rights, is Berechtigung. Verfügung is to have access. So they join allein, which is alone, single, individual, Verfügung, which is access, and Berechtigung, which is rights. You have a right, legal right. So they join these three words to make one word, which is almost 27 letters, about 24 letters. The Alleinverfügungsberechtigt, meaning the only person who should have legal access to this account is the so-and-so person. So the language is wonderful. It's incredible. I am happy I did study German. Yeah.
Did you ever write poems in German language?
Yes, I used to write poems in German, but I sort of stopped that, and I disappeared the poems because it was my overreaction to the right wing. Like if people are on the streets attacking foreigners in Germany because they look brown, black, green, whatever. So I felt that, well, okay, my own response to that in my own powerless way. The power I had was my powerlessness. So I expressed my powerlessness by stopping to write in German for that period. I might go back to writing in German because it's really a beautiful language.
And it is now a completely different scenario from what you're describing.
Germany is, I'm really happy to say that following this crisis, the Syrian crisis and the refugee situation, and the Chancellor Angela Merkel promising to absorb 800,000 people. I say, wow, that is incredible. Germany, and it's totally changed. The government was always middle of the road anyway. It was just some elements within the society who were causing the trouble with the right-wing activity, but they seem to be keeping quiet. And I think they finally understand that it's a global world. If the German economy is going to be to continue the way it is as the largest economy in Europe, if the social welfare system is going to be sustained, if the the balance between the worker and the retired is going to be maintained, they need immigrants, just as Canada needs immigrants, even though Canada sometimes doesn't allow its immigrants to use all their talents, because you have people with a PhD from another place
we
going
will
to...
get to that
All
question
right.
later, but
All
I
right.
want to ask you before we get there is what made you then leave Germany and decide to come to Canada?
Well, like I said, I left because I felt there was too much right-wing activity going on, and there was no concerted, clear policy for dealing with them, because, well, it's a democratic society and people have a right to express themselves, even if they have to go on the street and march with the flag. Like, sometimes down south the US, you see the KKK marching on the street. There was a recent incident where they and I think the Crips or something, or some gang, they were going to, but it didn't happen somehow. That. So that was why I left. It was part of my being disgruntled about the... I even wrote a very long poem about that aspect, But that's, like I said, Germany is a great place, and I have really great, wonderful friends there. And I'm very happy that the right wing is, slowly disappearing after the wall fell, and there was social problems because of that. But that's 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. So things are changing. And so, yes, I left because
and then you
my own
here.
small protest, but against my powerlessness, expressing my powerlessness once more. Who cares if I leave? Who am I? They don't care. The country will go on without me anyway, right? So in expressing your power through powerlessness. So I left and came to Canada.
And why Canada?
Because I thought it was where, as a writer, where can I find a democratic, quiet place from which to throw stones at the bad people in the world. Canada. So I can stay here and like the South African writer was an apartheid activist. I forget his name right now. It says, I write what I like. So from here out, I can write what I like without fear.
Canada gave you that freedom.
Freedom of expression. PEN Canada, is here very strong. A member of PEN Canada, and the values, the democratic values of Canada itself as a country is symbolized by PEN Canada. So I felt that this is a place where I could do my writing from without fear of being harassed
or
persecuted,
And have you been able to do that?
Well, I've been writing. The PhD took my creative time, so it slowed me down a bit. But to balance that, I created the Maple Tree Literary Supplement that we'll be talking about later on. Yes. Okay. So yes, I've been writing, and since I've been here, I have one poetry collection out. I have other projects that I've put on the back burner because of the PhD. I started the PhD in 2006 and finished it in 2013. And now I'm really very pregnant with books, creative books, poetry, drama, fiction that needs that are crying to be birthed, to come to earth, to life. So that's
I read somewhere that for a brief while you were also a Hare Rama Hare Krishna movement.
Oh yes, Hinduism. Yes, I was an Hindu monk because it was a period in my life where I was going through things, and I felt that I needed a kind of safe harbor. I needed some kind of withdrawal from society, just go away, disappear. So I went into the monastery and I stayed for 6 months. It seemed like, it's not long, 6 months, but the lifestyle, the dedication, and the discipline, it was like 6 years for me. Because you go to bed at 9 p.m., you wake up at 3 a.m., take your shower. If you don't want to wake up, the temple president will ring the bell right into your eardrums. They had a large bell to wake everybody up. And you take your cold shower. It doesn't matter how chilly it is, even in the tropics. In the morning, it's chilly. You take a cold shower to wake up, then go into the temple back. You put on the tilak on your body. That's the chalk from the river Ganges to mark the body, to purify the body. You mark your head. You mark the body. Dress up. Then you begin you wear the dhoti. Dress up in the dhoti, the saffron robe that the devotee wears. So then you go into the temple from 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. That's 6 hours of morning devotion. That is intense. You do the songs and the worshiping your guru, paying obeisance to your spiritual master. You do all of that, and by 10 a.m. we now go out to clean the temple. You wear your best dress. Your prized possession is your dhoti, your saffron robe. Any other thing, whether it's made of silk or gold or whatever, we don't consider as important. So you put on those things and clean the gutter in front of the temple, clean the environment, do all the dirty work with those clothes which normal other people will consider as, this is for special occasion. I will wear those special clothes and pack the sun, pack the gutter, clean. Yeah, because the saffron robe was the most important.
Did that experience enrich you as a creative person?
Yes, it did, and it still does, because usually we all write out of a place of experience. So it's from out of the experience that your creativity is enriched. So if not in a direct way, if I haven't used it yet, as time goes on, it's going to appear in writing. And I did write poetry back then in, you could say it's religious poetry, in the sense that you were supposed to use all your talents, all your abilities for Krishna worship. So you're not supposed to do worldly activities like writing a love poem, for example. So, okay, you could write a erotic poem, write it about Krishna, Krishna and the gopis, for example. You could want, So it reminds me of the early modernist poet, Gerald Manley Hopkins, who was he was a Jesuit priest. He was writing his poems in secret because it was considered a worldly affair. The present Pope is a Jesuit, by the way. I think it's the Pope Francis. So Jesuits are really like disciplined and simple, easygoing, not interested in anything worldly. From my taking the example of Manley Hopkins, the poet. So his poems, I think, were only published posthumously.
Okay.
But they set the tone for modernist poetry, beginning with this guy. He did very, very important work for the modernists, but he was doing it secretly because he thought it was a sinful activity. He was not really sure if this was right. So in the same way, there's some kind of self-censorship involved. That's part of why I left the monastery, because I wanted to sin. They said I should not sin. Why? How can you be in the world and not sin? Life without sin, without life. As Christopher Okigbo, the Nigerian poet, writes, says, life without sin, without life. There's no way you're not going to sin. Just choose your sin carefully so it doesn't kill you. So
that's a very interesting answer.
Yeah.
I want to take you back to Nigeria.
Yes.
You left Nigeria when you were 31.
Yes.
So why did you decide to firstly leave? And Nigeria clearly is part and parcel of your upbringing, of your value system.
Yes.
And what is it that you miss the most of Nigeria right now? So there are like three parts to this question.
Why did I leave?
No, what is it that made you leave firstly?
Yes. Why?
What is it that you kind of retain of Nigerian values?
Yeah.
And what is it that you miss?
Yeah. I left, like we said earlier, why I went to Germany to study.
Yes.
So I left Nigeria the immediate reason was to go and study. There was another existential reason, which was I was not happy with the politics. I was not happy in a system where you cannot live as a honest person. If you're an adult, you start your working life, your career. Along the way, somehow you will have to, get kickback, or you have to kick front. You have to, it's a system that is based on graft and nepotism and not on your individual talents or what you could achieve. So, I mean, as a student in Nigeria, I couldn't get a scholarship if I didn't know a big man in the Ministry of Education, who I know an uncle who knows a friend, who knows a friend, who knows a sister or cousin. That kind of system based on, not based on talent and merit is not going to work. It wasn't going to work for me. Even as a young boy in high school, I knew something was wrong. If I, as a child, knew something was wrong and the president didn't know something was wrong, then I don't want to be around him. I don't want to be in a country like that. Because I have only one life to live, and you have to live it to the hilt. You have to, actualize yourself in this one lifetime. So maybe that's why I've been like restless. I was a Muslim as a child. I can still read the Quran. I know, Quran recitals that we did as a child. I can still recite, I can still do the ablutions, I can do the prayers. Then I was a born-again Christian. Then I was restless, then I moved to Hare Krishna, and now I'm just a wine drinker.
So what is it that you miss about Nigeria,
yes,
if anything at all?
What do I miss? What I miss is the network that would be naturally available to me. Here, I'm like, my prime minister once said, there's first stock, second stock Canadian. So maybe I'm second stock. But I just discovered that it's not so easy to have those networks that were open to me. that it will be open to me if I were to move back to Nigeria right now. I don't have it in Canada. So you have to start creating things anew, creating networks, creating platforms, creating, opportunities for yourself and people around you, for the immigrant community, So this is one thing that I miss. Here, I just I'm quiet. I stay in my apartment and do my work. Nobody knows me. I don't know much people.
You are watching TAG TV, and this is Living Multiculturalism with Mayank Bhatt. We are talking to Amatoritsero Ede, whose biggest pet project is what we are going to now discuss. He started the Maple Tree Literary Supplement about 8 years ago to create, unwittingly perhaps, a platform for creative writers who were otherwise not getting an opportunity to be published. Perhaps this has to do with the inherent bias of the publishing world. Perhaps it is something that, because of absence of network that he earlier mentioned. For whatever reasons, the MTLS, as it is called, has turned into one of the biggest literary journals of our times. I am now going to talk to him about that. What is it that made you think of something like this? It's not, I have submitted short stories, I have submitted non-fiction pieces. More often than not, they are not accepted. But one doesn't go and therefore start something on one's own. I believe that was your motivation, but I want you to talk about that a bit more.
Yes, I'm a creative animal, let's put it that, cultural animal. So I have to express myself. Anywhere I am, I go. So I noted, once I moved to Canada, I noted that when you send out material to journals, because the experience is out of the range of experiences that the editor in his own his or her lived experience is a bit foreign to them, because you write, a writer writes from their lived experience. You can't use only Canadian experience. You write from somebody like M.G. Vasanji writes from, when you read his work, you see that, oh, he's an African, he's an Indian, he's a Canadian, he's richer than if you were only a Canadian. He was born, bred, buttered here. Then he's poorer for it. So, but the immigrants or even Canadians who were born here sometimes don't have opportunities to publish their work because the literary world for me seems to be like a closed circle. If you're not inside the circle, you are outside of it. And if you are outside, you can't get into that circle. It has very high walls, So I thought that, well, I know what I write. I started writing in high school. So it's not about quality, it's about the content that maybe disconcerts if I write something like the Skinhead's Lord's Prayer. That's a short poem that introduced a section in my second collection, and it says, "Our Father, who art in Valhalla, hallowed be thy name. Thine Reichdom come. Thine will be done on earth as it is in hell. Give us this day our daily cups. Forgive us our weaknesses as we batter all non-Aryans come. Lead us into temptation and deliver us unto the devil. For thine is the Reichdom, the fire and the glory forever and ever. Heilman." Now, if I submit something like this to a Canadian editor,
It would be a shocking experience.
It will be shocking, and he will probably say, no, I mean, we don't do stuff like this. This is too highly politically charged. I can't do that. So because of the material, and because also, because also that my name might not be known to this person, they have a closed circle of writers and everything, and it's business as usual. So the thing to do is to buck the system, to shake things up a little bit, create a niche for immigrant writers and Canadians who've been here forever would have no outlet to publish their work. And I have it was a deliberate act. It wasn't by accident that I started. It was written. I knew that there's a a need for this kind of journal that is multicultural, that is culturally diverse, that represents all cuts across different demographics within Canada. So you have sections on spoken word for young people, you have old people, whoever, spoken word, you have serious, very much more serious or intellectual stuff going on, you have light reading, you have different things going on. At the same time, there's visual arts, there's a section on, I used to do interviews with small presses, what's their publishing process. So there was a book history section, and so the journal itself is reminiscent of Canada's population constitution, that we have different people in Canada. So you have different sections on the journal to satisfy different kind of tastes, and then you have everybody on the journal. Even the editorial board is multicultural. So you have white, black, red, green, yellow, purple, orange, everybody is there. So, and the writers we publish, the contributors, the artists are also from all sections of Canadian life.
As you would describe, it's a rainbow
it's a rainbow coalition,
and if you
so to
see
speak.
TAG TV's logo,
Yes,
it is also a rainbow.
Yeah, it shows the rainbow. Yes,
yes.
That's what it should. That's one of the beautiful thing about this country is that it's richer than a lot of places, because it has people coming from everywhere, bringing the old experiences and mixing it, with the so-called Canadian experience. Canadian experience alone is not enough to go by. Canadian experience is enriched by experiences from other places.
I would say that, I'm here in Canada, I'm a Canadian citizen,
Yeah.
so are you. My experiences are both Canadian as well as Indian. In your cases, your experiences are Canadian, German, and Nigerian.
Yes.
So Canadian experience is automatically something that involves all experiences. It cannot be just one narrow focus.
No.
Right?
No, but the way the way I've understood, maybe I misunderstood it, the way it's been used, that expression was supposed to mean experiences gained inside Canada. It was not meant to, or it is not meant to include experiences gained while you were in India.
And you spoke about this at Harvard University, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I had a conversation at Harvard. I was invited by George Eliot Clark, the poet laureate of Toronto, and he was there for a sabbatical, and he invited me to give a talk about the immigrant experience, and so I decided to give a talk, which I called Experience, Inexperience, and on Canadian poetics. So where I was engaging this issue and talking about what I call reverse immigration, where people come into Canada and because all their talents, all their faculties are not engaged by the opportunities that are open to them, they then move on to other places, which is like you gain them and you lose them, because you didn't use I know there's this writer who was here and who moved to the U.S., who is not teaching in the U.S. I forget her name now.
Bharti Mukherjee.
I think that's probably her.
Bharti Mukherjee came to Canada and then moved to the United States.
Yes.
But what is it that propelled you to get into this online journal and to keep it going for this long?
In theater they say, no matter what's happening, the show must go on. You can't say there's war outside. You started the play already, so you have to finish the play even while the war is raging outside. So the war in this instance is the financing this journal. It's been like a struggle. But before that, you asked me why did I feel the need? The need for, I feel like we were saying earlier on, I came here because I felt I could write what I like here. But writing alone is not enough. You have to publish it.
Yes.
So if you have immigrants coming here because they are running from persecution, journalists running from persecution, writers running from persecution, and they get here and their writing dies because they have no place to publish it in. So there needs to be a platform for them to express. So true freedom of expression is not complete without a place, a platform from which to speak. If they come here and become voiceless, what's the point of freedom of expression if you are voiceless? So if you don't have a platform. SAR Publication is doing a great job of publishing immigrant writers, publishing the other different opinions, different worldviews.
And that sorry to interrupt, but that is exactly what TAG TV is trying to do here
yes,
also.
yes. And I think that it's a laudable project, and we need more of such projects, and we need support for such projects, institutional support. So that I started it because there was a need, and I saw that there was a need, and I saw that it's doable. I have the experience, I have the editorial training, I have a certificate in print production. I worked in a brick and mortar publishing industry in Nigeria before I left, and so I've been an editor, and I know what goes into this. So as somebody who is a writer, a scholar, an editor, I was in the right. It's like, well, I was in the right place to do the right thing. So I just started it. I didn't expect it to actually take off. I was just basically doing my own thing, and let's see what happens. I was doing it, and I'm really surprised that it's, monthly we get an average of 8,000 first-time visits, unique visitors online, and sometimes altogether first-time visits and old visitors, you might get up to 20,000 visits. That's quite a lot.
It's remarkable.
Yes. So I started it to fill a niche, to fill a need, to respond to the felt needs of immigrant writers and also older Canadian writers, young writers who are starting out, who need a place to hone their skills, to hone their craft, a place where they can grow. And I've had people move from NTLS to publish books and become actually celebrated, like Dawn Promislow, whose first ever publication was on MTLS. She has a collection of short stories, which was reviewed in the Mail and the Guardian. Is it Mail and the Guardian? What am I mixing?
Mail.
Globe and Mail. Sorry, I'm mixing up Mail and Guardian. So and there was also Veena Gokhale, who's published a book. There's
Veena is actually originally from Bombay.
Yeah, she's started there and published a book as well. And you have Sonia Saikali. She lives in Ottawa. She published with us and then went to publish a book of poems and a book of short stories. So that means the goal has been achieved. That was part of the goal, to give voice to people who would rather not have a platform from which to...
Were you taken by surprise that it became such an important journal for so many different kinds of writing?
Yes, I don't know if to be surprised. I think I was a little bit surprised, which it means that my projections were correct, that there is a need. Because I know that I can throw modesty out of the window and say that I am one damn good writer. I know that. So if an editor doesn't want to publish my work, has nothing to do with the work. It has to do with maybe my name. It has to do with not being known. It has to do with the restlessness that's been pushing me all over the world. That we're not going to publish this restless guy. Where is he coming from? Look at that poem talking about Hitler and stuff. We don't want to do that. So the need, yes, I was surprised, but it's a pleasant surprise. It's good. I hope more writers or more artists will come out who would benefit from this and go on to greater careers.
In a lot of ways, what you did was you took on the role of the establishment without the resources of the establishment,
Yeah.
to create a platform where multiculturalism would thrive.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether you looked at it from this perspective at all when you started, or whether you looked at it ever even after that. But I believe that it has been so popular that you even get fan mail. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, I got a fan mail and I was surprised. I got a fan mail from the US. So it was around last Christmas. I received something in the mail and I opened. I looked, I saw a picture of a family, daddy, mommy, child, and a greeting card, something that said thank you. And so I didn't understand what this was. I was wondering, and you were addressed to Maple Tree Literary Supplement. So I asked a lady who helped me with editing what was this? And she said, oh, you don't get it. You have a fan mail. I said, wow, that's that's a fan mail. That's interesting from the U.S. So yeah, that shows the how part of the surprise that you talk. I was surprised to get that. I was surprised to see, pleasantly surprised to see writers whose first short story came out in Maple Tree Literary Supplement, then going on to publish a book. Like me, I'm talking of Dawn now. Get reviewed in the Globe and the Mail, get shortlisted probably for some prizes, get to travel to South Africa for invited as an invited writer, get republished in South Africa. That is great. That's what a journal is supposed to be doing, as the entry into larger literary circle.
And you publish, you told me you publish writers even from outside of Canada.
Oh yes, we have a policy of to have a conversation with the global world literature. So we have 90% Canadian content and 10% international content. So I've published writers from recently Ukraine, from India, from the US, from Nigeria, as a matter of course, all over the globe. The good thing about online presence is that it's accessible everywhere. Anywhere you have a computer, a laptop, or even a handheld device like cell phone or iPad, you can go online and access the journal.
And you know that TAG TV is also an online TV.
Yes, I know that. It's a great idea. It's a very great idea.
So where do you go from here, and where does the journal go from here? You've been doing this for 8 years. You have a vast repertoire of writers.
Yeah.
You continue to do what you're doing. Are you trying to modify it? Are you trying to kind of reach a larger global audience?
Yes, we're always trying to expand the audience to reach a larger percentage of cultural, literary people or art, people who love culture all over the world. And we are limited, of course, in terms of funding. The Canada Council has been helpful in the past with funding. Unfortunately, that funding stopped for whatever reason I'm not very clear about, but we're going to reapply to the Canada Council, although the equity section of the Canada Council has continued to support us, and over the past, from between 2012 and 2015, I can say we got about $50,000 from the equity arm of the Canada Council. So we are very grateful for that, and I think a lot of the work wouldn't be doable. Of course, I started out initially funding it with out of my own pocket, but the help of Canada Council also contribute to the literary careers of those people, like Dawn I'm talking about, like Vina Gokale, like by supporting us, they support those people indirectly.
Indeed, yes.
Or even directly, because we have to pay them anyway. We pay them an honorarium from the money that they give us. Nevertheless, the funding it comes in trickles. Sometimes it doesn't come, and I have to support it. I have to pay for it by myself somehow. Like you were asking me, what's the plan? Like I was talking about, the show has to go on. It's a project that's there forever. Well, as long as there's energy in me, it's going to be there. Or even if I'm not there, hand it over to somebody else to continue it. So the next stage is where we want to have is more regular, more solid institutional funding. We're going to try to get back into the operating granting program of the Canada Council. I'm going to be applying for it next year, and then we'll also try to approach other people, maybe even outside of Canada, like the is it called Omdia Foundation in the U.S., which is run by the person who owns or started eBay, the online thing. He runs that. So I'm looking for sources for funding, and we're also appealing to the public to, if they feel like supporting us, just contact us. There's a donate button on the website right now. With the new upgrade, we just upgraded the website. So this upgrade will now enable adverts on the site. So we're going to be trying to, start advertising on the website. It had been mostly just clean, devoid of adverts. And through the advertisement and hopefully more public and institutional support, we're hoping that we can pay writers more. A writer should be able to live from their writing. People say, oh, if you're a writer, you can't live from that. Yes, usually not. But it has to change. Things can change. Things are changing. 20 years ago, we didn't have internet. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have. So because of the power of social media, I think it is possible for writers to be able to earn enough from their writing. So if we get the institutional funding and support, we'll then try to generate business through adverts and other means. And as time goes on, the goal is to be able to pay writers substantial enough.
That's the business part of it.
Yes.
In terms of creative content.
Yes.
Do you think that this is the format that you want to follow, or is it something that you want to expand into doing something else?
Yes, with the social media or community aspect of it, which was actually part of the old website before the new upgrade, has to be brought back in. But we will need more. We will need assured funding and also better technology. We need to find the technology and then the manpower. We need to have a regular person who is paid on a monthly basis to do nothing else but just focus on this, a web developer in short. So these are the plans. Then you have Facebook, you have Google Plus, you have other social media, and the community aspect on MTLS, which is called MTLS pages, is that when you say a Facebook wall, we are MTLS page. You go to my page. Have you seen my book? Pages make up a book, and you have chat groups or discussion groups called like Reviewers Regrets, Poetry Corner, and for people who want to like flirt, you have Lonely Alphabets. So this is the conception. It is in the older version, issue 19, but in issue 20, I have sort of put it to one side until we are ready to launch it properly. So that will be like a place for writers to hang out. You have Facebook. Facebook is for everybody, but this one will be a place for writers and artists to hang out and meet like minds. We also want to have online live interview with writers, or Q&A sessions with writers. If I have George Eliot Clark come on, you can 1 hour. Anybody in the public can ask him questions about poetry, about his work, and as aspiring young writer can talk to him about what do you think, but we have to pay such a writer maybe $1,000 for his 1 hour. You say it's too much? No, it's not too much. Intellectual work can never be paid adequately enough, can never be remunerated adequately enough. So these are some of the plans.
In doing all this, do you feel that you have neglected your own poetry? Because there are two things to this now.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you that question, and then I'm going to request you to recite a few of your poems.
Okay.
But first, what has happened to your poetry?
This work actually did not disturb my creative writing. It's like if you I don't have the time to sit down and write poetry for a while. Then I say, okay, this will keep me in practice. It's like if you can't go to the gym, you can do push-up in the house, right? Until you get the time to go to the gym and pump the heavy weights. So this journal is for me like a push-up. I started it while doing the PhD. It didn't disturb the PhD. The PhD didn't disturb it. I can multitask. The only thing meaning you have no social life, right? You are walking. I might sit at my table from the morning till I look up and say, wow, it's dark. It's from morning till like 12 midnight. I'm sitting at my table. It doesn't bother me. I'm not restless. I can sit there. You know, I was a monk. That's when you said, has my being in the monastery helped my creativity? Yes, because it gave me the discipline. You know, you could sit down and contemplate on home for 24 hours. You know, you have the concentration, and I can multitask and do things. So for my poetry, the creative work with MTLS is like a waiting period until I can get back to my writing projects. Like I told you, I was pregnant with books. And what actually interfered with my creative writing is the PhD and the scholarly publishing. You can't do heavy research and have time to write poems. This is why you see that from way back, from the 18th century, this discussion has been going on between writers and critics. And the fight between critics and writers is that old, where the critic, like Alexander Pope, in one of his poems, an essay on man, I think, where he started with this popular maxim: a little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep, or taste not the Pierian spring, where little draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking largely sobers us again. And further down the line, there was a place where he was telling the critic, cavil you may, but never criticize. You know, that you have no right to criticize me as a writer, because...
But you can make fun of me.
Yeah, praise me or whatever, but don't... But the thing is that, and then they have this thing where they say, a critic is a failed writer. Not because he can't write, but because he was distracted by the PhD. He was distracted by MTLS.
There's another saying, right?
Yeah.
If those who can do, those who can't teach.
Those who can do,
Yeah, those who can
yeah,
will go and do it.
yeah,
Those who cannot do it,
they
will
go and teach it. Yeah, but in some cases, it's not that they can't do it. It's just they don't have the time to do it.
Yes.
You cannot be a professor in a university and also a writer. It's difficult. Some people manage it, but some people, like I know this guy, Greg Hollingshead at U of A. I met him there while I was a student there in 2002, 2003. He retired early so that he can face his writing. He was his professor in the department. And there's also this guy, the current guest writer on MTLS, H. Nigel Thomas.
Oh, yes.
He retired early at Laval University so that he can just do his writing. So it's just because of we have a short time on this planet. We have 24 hours in a day, and we can only live so long. So sometimes you have to just focus on one thing and leave the other. So as for me, I think I can do all of it, like I said, because I have that discipline from the monastery.
I'm now going to request you to recite a few of your poems, the ones that kind of are the nearest to your heart,
Okay.
and the one that kind of portray your entire corpus of work.
Okay, usually my poetry, I usually write long poems. I find the short poem boring. I find it incomplete. I find it like you always feel like something is missing, or this thing could have gone on longer. So I'm going to read one long poem like that. Yes. Let me read Caribbean Blues. This is a poem written, when love goes bust. So I say, postcards scented with love, describing exotic Jamaica. Postcards, still careful artists, painting pictures of Bob Marley, immobilized forever in stone, plucking a tone-dead guitar because he does not know the reggae of it. Pictures of gurgling brooks, of lakes of sunlight, of surf and sand and nothing. Your photographs are all hidden away, but do not feel that I do not feel. It is the camera flash of your smile which blinds, and I must shutter my mind against the bright and the dark. Bulletproof my soul against your flashbulb eyes. Do not feel that I do not feel. It is the camera flash of your smile which blinds, and I must shutter my mind against the bright and the dark. Bulletproof my soul against your flashbulb eyes. Do not feel that I do not feel. But those palm grooves of naked bodies, all that oil, all that ripeness, it is love shipwrecked in the sun, even though your name promises a plenitude. Like the blue waters of the bay, it is safe harbor for the seafaring gulls, or the salt of life for the diver fish. Water, to flood the seaways to a harried heart. It is sea winds swaying the sad palms, eternal witnesses to many a drowning, even though you once said to the waves, no panic on the Titanic. Still, the Titanic sank, sitting still in the steel blue silences of a dead seabed, deafened by the silent crash of talkative sea conches pressed against waterlogged ears that can no longer hear, because life roars on. Up where the swordfish knives through the breakers, she went down amidst a menge of seaweed and flotsam, like a dead whale, belly up, belly aching the press of waters. She sank amidst slimy, grimy, crawling things. She sank, fossilized upon the slimy bed of a slimy sea, at Montego Bay, island shipwrecked in the sun. For this you fear the depths, but what fate awaits a champion swimmer except death by water? What fate for the lover but heartbreak at evening, when the tropical sun bursts into a million gold ingots, breaking upon the slack fearful waves, hot fagots racing along the excited banks, with a kiss and a hiss, sinking heart and sky in darkness and ashes. Why do you stare so fixedly towards sea? What dazed sight did you see at the quay? Is it those two sea nymphs at Ochorio's, formed like bubbles, feeding each other's shells, bathing among the foams, as naked as those nudist forms, lying lazy-limbed upon the sandy cove? No, that those two apparitions were you and I, for we were but bubbles upon the treasurer's crest, weathered together by a molecule of water, and are only together by clinging together, atomized on this reggae fall of waters. What fumes assailed you among the reefers? What sighs? What gnomes? What numbness? Amongst smoked giddy leaves, a demon horn appears, bright as an angel, teasing the hot lustful waves that makes you so swoon, making eyes with your water-cut clams, clamming at the eye thighs. Fate, do not sway, rock steady, catch the sprays, and like Peter the rock, you shall meet God, win, upon the bed sheets of water. Should you think me too obsessed with the wayward ways of water, remember, we are all salt all, and all our members do no other but all dissolve, limb for limb, only liquid, they grab at us without hands, at even tide when the hunter shark scavenges, running away with all our fins, our bloody stillness, running away with all our fins. I'm going to read something about Toronto from my second collection of poems, because we are in Toronto, and I love this city so much. I love the multiculturalism, and I love this energy and the spirit, and the which you can feel in this studio as well. Toronto, it's called Globetrotter. Toronto is Amsterdam adrift at sea. It breathes the open Atlantic, where lines and angles blur and bend into mist. Toronto is Prague, without a hankering of narrow streets, narrow sky, and virgin tight apartment blocks. It is London, long jumping her imperial shadows, Trafalgaring into space. In winter, the north comes to visit without her lights. Not even Scheveningen could breathe such bone-bending blasts. Sir Winter, gruff arthritic old braggart with woolly mane. Is that snow on his head? Or is it Shoyinka's hair, fluorescent against the night of Africa's dark politicians? As we sit in Düsseldorf, in a foyer of smoked hoteled wine, and eye the question. Photographer, you have no perspective wide as the Autobahn, between Scarborough and Etobicoke, where the roads scream, rubber, rubber, tears long as a calendar year. And look where the streetcar has left a scar in the brush flower, as it goes Berlining around Queen's Avenue. The white draped Reichstag is not here. There should be no hurry to undress it with tourist eyes. What does the endless North American sky reveal? Like those sex workers in Amsterdam's love quarters, she says simply, I am wide open. So the streetcar becomes a tram in slow phallic rush on Lambermeerdervoort in The Hague, flirting foolishly with the horizon. The red light flashes where there are no red light districts. The streetcar stops to gaze at lovers, trundling down the avenue, down Dundas, heavy with love and its weights, to Heaton Centre, where heart pump more round from the fondling and folding of love's caress.
Before we conclude, I want you to tell our audience what the website is, what is the URL, what is the submission guidelines, how can they get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Please do so.
All right. Maple Tree Literary Supplement is electronic journal. It's online. The URL is www as usual, and then mtls.ca. That's Mama Toronto London Sister.ca. And the website is very clear on submission. There's a submission menu. So people wanting to submit should just go there and click on the submission. It explains the guidelines for submitting. And there's a submission form online. They don't have to mail anything. It's all electronic and easy, to do from anywhere. And contact, as for contact, there's a contact menu as well. And the phone number and contact address for the managing editor, which is myself, it's also there. And people who want to submit should also visit each section of the journal. You have underwriting, all genres of writing, poetry, fiction, essays, creative nonfiction. So you should just go there, browse, read, and get an idea of the kind of material that we publish. And as for the interviews, usually there are some aspects of the journal that is by invitation. Nevertheless, we are open to being suggestions from the public. If a writer wants to be featured on the journal, they could talk to us through the contact menu. And artists as well. We feature artists and writers. The artists can also get in touch with us and give us an idea of what they are doing. And the general contributors simply go to the submission site and send their material. It's open to everybody, young and old writers, beginning writers, people in mid-career and the established. That is the whole idea of inclusion. It's reminiscent of Canada's inclusiveness, multicultural, diverse, culturally diverse and inclusive and non-discriminatory. And that's about it.
Friends, that was Amatoritsero Ede, a poet from Nigeria, a publisher in Canada, a student in Germany. A life very well lived and a life that has contributed to making our lives in Canada more richer with culture by reinterpreting multiculturalism. I hope you have enjoyed the show. You are watching Living Multiculturalism with Mayank Bhatt on TAG TV. I want to invite you to give your suggestions to us. We want to make this show very participatory. If you have something that you want to see on the show, if you have an artist that you think we should be presenting, write to us. We will be more than happy to accommodate your request or your suggestions. Keep watching Living Multiculturalism by Mayank Bhatt on TAG TV.
#1 multicultural channel. This is TAG TV.